Hey there! English verb tenses are some of the most difficult things to learn in English. I've met so many students who know verb tenses on paper. They know how to do grammar practice and exercises using the verb tenses, but they don't know how to use them in real life. That's why I decided to teach you the present tenses in English. My goal is to teach you 3 things about all 4 present tenses: the meaning, the form, and the use. So why you should use it, and how you should use it, and how you can use it in your everyday life. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can get all of my weekly video lessons. I'm so excited to teach you this lesson because you'll be able to use it right away. Americans use the present tenses all the time, literally all day, every day. So it's really important that you know how to use these well. Are you ready to get started? Here we go. First up, present simple tense. The most important thing to know about the present simple tense is that it's used for routines and habits. So things that we do every single day, every single week or month or year. But don't forget that we can also use present simple for future scheduled events. And in American English, this is a very popular way to use this verb tense. Here are some common examples of how we use this in our language. I work out every morning. This is an example of a routine. She loves drinking Starbucks before work. This is a habit. My mom cooks dinner for us every night. Again, this is an example of a routine. My flight leaves tomorrow at 5:30. This is an example of using present simple tense for a scheduled time in the future. The way that you form a present simple sentence is subject plus the verb 1 form of the verb. Basically, it means base form of the verb, or V1, object plus time. Don't forget to add an S at the end of all the words if you're using he, she, or it as the subject. A negative example of present simple would be, I don't work out that often. A question form would be, do you work out often? Next, let's move on to present progressive tense, which is even more commonly used than present simple tense. Present progressive tense is used for things that we're doing right now in the moment. Basically anything in progress or anything continuing. In British English, this verb tense is called present continuous, but in American English, it's called present progressive. We also use this for something that's in progress, but not right now. And I'll give you an example shortly. Don't forget that we can also use present progressive for events that are scheduled in the future. Let's take a look at some examples. My sister is studying in her room right now. They're attending university in New York City. This is what I mean by something that is continuing but not in the moment. They're in New York City because they're studying in university, but maybe at the moment they're not in the university. But this whole thing is in progress. I'm eating lunch today at 11 a.m. Scheduled future event. A negative example, she's not studying anymore. Here's a question. Is she studying right now? Where is your sister studying? That's an information question. To form a present progressive sentence, we're going to put subject plus to be plus verb with ing, then the object, and then time. My sister, subject, is to be studying, verb plus ing, in her room, that's the object, right now. Or you could say, my sister is studying Spanish. My sister is studying English right now. Definitely try to use present progressive tense as often as you can because it is extremely common in American English. Next, let's move on to the more difficult ones, present perfect and present perfect progressive. These 2 verb tenses are extremely popular in American English, but it's going to take you some time to really feel comfortable, so try a little bit every day. Let's start with present perfect. Present perfect is a verb tense that we use to talk about things that started in the past, but are still true right now. So they are unfinished. The most important thing for you to know is that it's things that are unfinished. unfinished. For example, I would say, I have lived in New York City for my entire life. This is something that started in the past when I was born, but it's still true because I still live here in New York City. For example, someone can ask me, Gabby, how long have you taught English? And I would say, I have taught English for over 10 years because I started 10 years ago, but it's still true. I'm still teaching English. It's unfinished. Once it finishes, then we can change it to a past tense. But for now, it's unfinished, so we're going to use present perfect. The form of a present perfect sentence is subject plus have or has plus what we call V3, which is the past participle, plus object plus time. So listen again. I, subject, have taught, past participle, English, object, for over 10 years, time. Now here's the thing. The time expression is not always necessary, but it's important to know that if you remove the time expression from a present perfect sentence, the meaning is the same as past simple. For example, Luis has studied in New York is the same as Luis studied in New York. Again, remove the time expression and it means the same thing as a simple past sentence. A negative example would be, the students haven't gone home yet. A yes/no question would be, have the students gone home yet? Yes, they have. No, they haven't. And an information question would be, where have the students gone? Hey, have you been to that new restaurant on Main Street? Oh yeah, I've been there and I love it. Don't say anything. She hasn't seen the movie yet. Have you lived in London long? The last verb tense that we're going to talk about today is present perfect progressive. Again, in British English, you could say present perfect continuous. It's important to remember that present perfect and present perfect progressive are very similar. In fact, most native speakers use them interchangeably, which means we use one or the other whenever we choose because their meaning is almost exactly the same. There's one small difference in use, and that's what we're going to focus on. So why do we use present perfect progressive? And how is it different than present perfect? Present perfect progressive is used to talk about an event that started in the past but is still in progress. In progress is what you want to focus on. So again, this is used for things that are unfinished, just like present perfect. However, the reason why we would use present perfect progressive is because we want to emphasize how long something has been happening. The students have studied for 2 hours. In this sentence, we're not really focused on how long the students have been studying. We're focusing on the end result, which is that they studied. However, if I want to focus on the time or the duration, how long it's been happening, I'm going to switch and use present perfect progressive. For example, the students have been studying for 2 hours. This is going to put an emphasis on how long this has been happening. Here's another example. Imagine that I'm meeting up with my friends. I say, let's meet at 4 o'clock. My friends don't arrive until 4:30. So I was waiting for them for 30 minutes. I would call my friends and say, hey, where are you? I've been waiting for you for 30 minutes. I'm going to use that instead of saying I've waited for you for 30 minutes, because if I say I've waited for you for 30 minutes, the emphasis is just on the end result, which is me waiting. If I say I've been waiting for you for 30 minutes, the focus is on the duration. I want my friends to feel guilty because they're coming late and I'm waiting. So I'm going to use present perfect progressive. Here's another example. The marathon runners have been running for 5 hours. The emphasis is on how long they've been running. My mom has been cooking Thanksgiving dinner all day. Again, the emphasis is on how long it's been going on. Let's take a look at the form. The form is we have subject plus have or has plus been plus verb with ing at the end, object, and time. And as usual, time is optional. I, subject, have been waiting, that's verb, ing, for 30 minutes. Time. Here's a little note with important things to remember. Not all verbs can go into progressive form. I'm sure you've learned this before, but anytime you put a verb into ing form, there have to be specific qualifications to the verb. So there are a few different verbs that we cannot use with progressive tense. Let me explain. Number one, state verbs cannot be used with present perfect progressive tense. I've been knowing her for 3 years. Wrong. I have known her for 3 years. Number two, we can't use present perfect progressive on things that only happen one time and not progressively. For example, when you graduate, you don't progressively graduate. You graduate one time. So you can't say, I have been graduating. You would say, I have graduated. So if something doesn't happen more than once, if something doesn't happen continuously, you have to use present perfect. Another example of this would be, I have found my keys. You can't say, I have been finding my keys because you find them one time, not progressively. And lastly, you can't use present perfect progressive if they tell you the exact amount of times that something has happened. For example, I have been attending 4 concerts this year. Wrong. I have attended 4 concerts this year. You can use many or a lot of, for example, I've been attending many concerts this year. That's okay, but when they give you the exact number of times that something has been happening, you cannot use present perfect progressive. All right, now you know everything that you need to know about the 4 present tenses in English. Just keep practicing and you will get better. Your homework is going to be to practice using present tenses for the next week. You can go ahead and put some in the comments and I'll correct them for you. Or you can just go out and start talking. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to like this video if it helped you out. And don't forget to share it with a friend so that they can improve their English too. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.